Stay. Okay. Welcome back. Yeah, we're going to talk about Wheel of Time some more. And more specifically, we're going to talk about the Wheel of Time TV show. This is going to be a little different for me. I know there's a ton of YouTube videos that are out there talking about it. And you can check out What Up, you can check out Nablish, you can check out even Daniel Greene. There's also podcasts like the Rant TV show pod and Talk Around Riyadh, and even the Dusty Wheel has lots of show news. So I think it's been pretty much beat to death by other content creators. But what I'm going to do is give you my opinions and my takes on a lot of things because you guys have asked for it. So I'm going to give it to you. And hopefully you guys, like it or don't. I don't care if you don't like what I have to say, but you know what? Leave some comments. Let me know how much you hate this or love it. That would be great. I'll respond to them maybe, as long as it's not too trollish. And then I might just delete the comment. Probably not. It's good for the algorithms. So let's go and talk about maybe some of the things I've seen along mostly in the Facebook groups. Just because you guys have the most opinionated trollish groups in the world. I know Reddit's been negative as well, but you go on like Discord or you go on Twitter and even on Instagram, it's a lot more of a very hype and very excited about the show and not all this negative Nancy that we get. But man, it's annoying. And let's talk about that. So let's talk about some of the things that people complain about. And I wrote down a short list, but it goes on and on and on. And I'm not going to cover some of these in detail because some other people have. So some of these things, what are they cutting? I think that's been a concern with everyone out there is they're going to cut all this stuff and they're not going to keep the show, true to the books. And yes, that's true. They are going to cut a lot. And I would argue that's for the good. And hear me out. If we just take Robert Jordan's writing, that's a lot of spanking. I don't want to see that. It doesn't have to be like the Monty Python scene in the what is it, the Castle of Anthrax?
And here in Castle Anthrax, we have but one punishment for setting alight the grail-shaped beacon. You must tie her down on a bed and spank her. It's spanking!
More spankings. No, we don't need that. And I'm just kind of poking fun right now, being sarcastic. But there are a lot of things that happen, especially in the eye of the world, that do need to be cut. And I'll talk about that later in this video in the second half. Right now, I'm just going to kind of run through all these different comments. The other thing is just anytime there's been a small snippet, a lot of people have just been picking apart everything about it, whether it's Tom's guitar or the fact that they use a katana for Tam's sword rather than another type of sword that you had in your headcanon, or even what Robert Jordan might have sketched down. I don't think he ever drew sword, but I think he did actually comment on one time on a sword and said that's kind of what it looks like. But regardless of that, snippet are nitpicking every little detail. And then, of course, there's the casting. They've gone through great lengths and actually, from what I think, put together a really good cast. And I know a lot of people are going to get upset about the cast saying, oh, the casting's horrible. A lot of these people, I guarantee you've never seen act because they haven't been in a lot of stuff. And a lot of them are even foreign films. And I'm sure you haven't gone out and actually watched it. I have full confidence just from watching other Amazon productions. They don't normally cast bad. Name me one Amazon show that is horribly cast. I mean, I'll wait. Yeah. I'm trying to think of one. Like an Amazon original. The Expanse. I know it was a sci-fi channel show that went over there, but still amazing. The Boys. The casting's no problem at all. Some people have a problem with the storyline, but the casting's great. Man in the High Castle. Great. Jack Ryan. I know it was a little tough to see Jim from The Office playing an action role, but it worked. What other shows are there? Carnival Row, Orlando Bloom, I think did a great job. Some of the CGI was a little campy, but yeah, I don't see it. So I just wonder where your argument's coming from. And if it's not the acting that you're arguing about and it's race, then I would point you to the Dusty Wheel to Daniel Greene because they did a whole video on it, and I'm not going to go back into that about how you guys are brutally wrong about that as well. And if you want to go back to Robert Jordan's original fan casting from 1990s, sure, yeah, Val Kilmer can play Perrin. That would have been a horrible cast back then. Really? Perrin? Val Kilmer. Perrin. Iceman.
That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Ice, man. I am dangerous.
No, it's no. Just because the author said something, that's the reason why authors aren't casters. They don't cast their own movies. Never. They might produce it. They're not the casting agency. Never. No. So let's move on to other things. We'll get away from that because there's other videos you can watch on that. And then, of course, all the different little changes that we know about. People complain about that. And then the big thing I see complaints recently, where's the trailer? Well, let me start with there. I want to talk about this because it gets annoying. Yes, I do want to see a trailer. I think everyone out there wants to see a trailer. And it's going to sound kind of like an angry rant. It's not meant to be that way. It's meant to be more informative because their marketing department is doing this right. And let's look at the facts. So I can't remember the exact statistic. I'll actually pull it up and post it right here. So it's going to be posted on the screen. But look at a show like we're going to post The Boys, how many viewers they had. Now, if I add up all of the Facebook users, all of the Twitter users, all of the people that follow the Wheel of Time official Twitter account and Instagram account, and I add up all those numbers, it doesn't even put a dent into the amount of viewers they need to make a successful TV show. Meaning that the diehard fans that are actually following the content, I'm sorry to say, you're the base, but you're not the audience. And if you really want a successful show, you should be rooting for the show, not being negative Nancy's. Just because I think they're going to put high production into it, and it might not be exactly what you want it to be. But don't be a Star Wars fan. Please. We're better than that. At least give it a try. I'm not saying you have to like it, but at least give it a try. We haven't even seen a real trailer yet. And people are like, this show's doomed. It's horrible. I'm writing it off. And back to the trailer. Why haven't we seen a trailer? Well, back to what I was saying. The trailer is meant in any production, any TV show out there. It's not meant for you guys. I'm sorry. If you're watching this, you're probably already a fan of Wheel of Time. The trailer's not meant for you. It's not meant for me. The trailer is meant for people that have never heard of Wheel of Time, that are flipping through Amazon and they're watching their next show, whatever, like The Boys or Man in the High Castle or whatever's on Amazon right now, The Expanse, and they see that trailer pop up and they have 1 minute, maybe 2, to say, hey, you've never actually thought about this or ever heard about this, but you want to watch this soon. If they released a trailer like everybody wanted it 3 months ago or even today and it doesn't release until November, let me tell you about the attention span of the average viewer. It is this small, which means you would have to do a second trailer, which I know they do that for movies, but not normally for TV shows. That's kind of a waste of budget. It costs a lot of money to create a trailer. I'm not sure if you guys understand how much it costs to create these things, but normally there's a 1 trailer for a TV show, maybe 2. But to put it 6 months, 7 months, 8 months in advance, no marketing team does that. Because, yeah, you're going to rile up the fans and they're going to remember, oh, yeah, that trailer was awesome or that trailer was horrible or I want to watch this show. The average person that's never heard of Wheel of Time is going to say, oh, yeah, there's that cool trailer I saw 6 months ago and I don't remember what it was and I've lost interest. And that's the truth. Let's pull Game of Thrones, for example. That's the biggest fantasy show that was ever made as far as popularity and viewership. Now, am I saying Wheel of Time's trying to follow Game of Thrones? No, I've seen that comparison. That's not what I'm saying here. Let's look at the marketing strategy. HBO put out their first trailer for Game of Thrones about 30 days before the actual release. That's kind of the sweet spot, 30 to 45 days, maybe even 60 at most. If we're in November, we're looking at September, October before we see a trailer. I know Rafe said by the end of summer. I'm thinking more very end of August, early September, just because I think he's going to honor his thing, but I don't think it's next week. I don't think it's next 2 weeks. I could be wrong. I just think the marketing team is holding this as long as possible. You don't want it to get stale. And I know as much as you want this trailer, it's not about you. And I'm sorry to say that. It's really not. You know what is about you? These little small teasers. No show does that. They are giving more to the fandom, to the Wheel of Time fandom, than almost any show ever has. I can't think of another show that has done this much where they show how production is going and give all these little teasers and things along the way. That is definitely aimed directly towards the fan base. And you guys crap all over it, at least on some platforms. And I just don't understand because they don't have to give you anything. That's really unheard of. Usually during production and even in post-production, you don't get anything till the trailer. You might get the movie poster like they did at Comic-Con, or you might get a little snippet here and there. But the fact that they give us anything, just be happy you got something. And then to pick it apart. So let's go into a few things. Let's start with the guitar. I think that's a genius move, and they'll tell you why. So having Tom play guitar versus a harp, one couple of reasons. The harp is one of the most difficult instruments to learn, to master and be good at. And yes, you can hire a person to come in that's already trained in the harp to be a sit-in or whatever, an extra or a look-alike body double for Tom. But are you really going to waste money for that for an instrument? No. Guitar is really easy to learn how to play. Plus, it doesn't translate, like I said, to the people they're looking to go to. Playing, a guitar versus playing a harp, it's still a string instrument. But as far as showmanship, maybe like a lira, like a medieval time. I know it's not supposed to be set medieval times, but even Renaissance time, that type of instrument might actually lend more to a catchy tunes and things like that you could actually do for a soundtrack and things like that, versus the angelic sounds of the harp, which don't lend to very catchy things. Or be like, I remember that song that played with the harp. No, I think it's a good move. I think it actually makes it more cinematic, which is what they're going for. Looking at other things people complain about, the sword, it being a katana blade and more of a samurai. Once again, don't hate that. It's a sword. I don't really care. Does it ruin the show? No. Who cares? As long as the acting is good, the action sequences are good, and the story and the actual writing is good, I could care less about the props. And that goes back to guitar too. You guys harp on this so much. It's been ruined. They have a guitar. It's been ruined. They have a katana. It's what ruins a show is crappy acting and crappy writing. As long as those two things are good, none of the other stuff really matters. Now, will it deviate from Wheel of Time? Yes, it has to. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. Let's go ahead and walk through. And Rafe has already said some of this. So I'm going to repeat some things that Rafe has said. One thing that Rafe said is that it's impossible to do all the different sets. Every show has a budget, and this budget is gigantic. I direct you to go to WotSeries.com. You can look at how big the budget is there. They actually have done some digging and figured that out. WotUp's also done a video about it. I think Nameless has as well, and talk about how massive this budget is. With that being said, sets are really, really, really expensive to build out entire cities, especially make them look different. Camelin has to look different than Tarvalin. It has to look different than Falma. It has to look different than anywhere near the Blight, if it's Faldara or Emmons Field. We know we have Emmons Field. We've seen that set. That's there. We've seen hints at what looks like Faldara, so I can assume that we have that. As far as everything else, we don't see sets for anything else, and I'll tell you a couple sets I think they're going to cut, and I'll tell you why. So, before we get to that, let's talk about the first thing I know at least I think they're going to cut. I don't know. There's a cryptic answer that Rafe Judkins gave at one of his giveaways, and says, I think Winter Night fans will be disappointed. So are we going to see the Trollocs attack Rand's house and Winter Night? No, I don't think so. And here's why. One, because of the cryptic thing that Rafe said. And two, once again, to add more action and make it more worthwhile. I think the Trollocs are going to attack during Beltane. I think Rand and Tam do not go back to their home. They're still there when they are attacked. Is Narg going to be there? Sure. But this way we get all of our central characters in one spot, and we don't have to have two different completely separate scenes and completely two different builds that we're going to burn to the ground to create one really scene. I mean, we never see what happens to Beltane or to Emmons Field on Winter's Night because we're over with Rand. We just see the aftermath of the buildings burned. But I think by seeing Moraine come out with her throwing fireballs and Lan, whipping around killing Trollocs, and then Rand and Matt and Perrin and Tam all being there, and maybe Tam doing some badass stuff too, all in the same location, it just makes it cinematically better than rather doing cut twos. So I think they're going to cut out going back to Rand's house. I don't know that for sure. It makes sense for me if I was a movie director. That's what I would do. It makes more cinematic sense. It makes for a better scene. So that's my takes on that. Let's fast forward a little bit. We know there's going to be Shatter Logoth. We've seen the dagger. A lot of people complain about that as well. Obviously, once again, I don't care about props. So don't care. Yeah. You can at me all you want. I don't care. But yeah, so we're going to have Shatter Logoth. Are we going to have Mordeath? I hope so. I think Mordeath's important, with at least with Thane. And who knows what they're actually going to do there. But we are going to have Shatter Logoth. So we have those two places that are definitely going to be built out, which I'm really excited about. Other things that we know we're going to have an expanded Logain story. Rafe has already said that. I'm excited about that. I know it's not in the books, but just having more of Logain and his backstory, and maybe even hinting that he might be the Dragon Reborn, so you don't automatically think it's Rand. I know it's going to focus a lot on Moraine and things like that versus focusing on Rand like book 1 did, where really from page 1 you realize that's the main character. Whereas this one and the show adaptation, I think they might be able to leave that a little bit more, or us as fans we know, but for a new watcher won't know who the actual Dragon Reborn is. Know that he's maybe been reborn, he's somewhere, and maybe think Logain might actually be it. And Faldara, I think we're going to Faldara just because some of the set lends itself to that. Also with the recent poster, we do know that we're heading at the Ways. So that's another whole build up. So what are the other things that we have? We have Barillon, we have Caemlyn, we have Four Kings, we have Whitebridge. Technically in the dream we have Tarvalin, where Rand and the dream sees Tarvalin. Are they going to build out an entire Tarvalin set for one dream sequence? No, I don't think we're going to see Tarvalin this season. It's really not until the second book anyway, and I just don't think we're going to get to that plot line yet. Are we going to see things from the second book in the first season? I think so. Is it going to be concise and follow the same plot line? No. So some other things I think they might cut. They might cut the whole Eye of the World. Not the book, but that sequence of getting to the Eye of the World. And here's my reason why I think it's good they should cut it. And you're going to always hate me for this video and why I think you should cut everything. But Robert Jordan was playing around with a lot of ideas when he wrote Eye of the World. And there's a lot of things that happen during that sequence that never come back. And really just I think he was just trying things out. And yeah, you can talk about the history and the lore and things like that and point to, well, he talked about this in this interview and that's why. Yeah, of course, an author can backtrack and say that's why he wrote that. But hear me out. First of all, you have two Forsaken that show up and they get offed almost immediately. I mean, one gets taken out by the Green Men almost immediately. And then the other one, gets taken out by Rand severing his power and he burns himself up and commits suicide. Agenor and Bartholomew, I think I pronounced that right. Anyway, Forsaken have to come across as a lot more scary than that scene portrays. I mean, yeah, they're scary, but they're not as scary as they need to come across in the TV show. So two Forsaken that killed off immediately, I don't think that's a good idea to have that. Then secondly, having a pool of Sidene that never, ever again is the power described as an actual physical liquid substance that you can throw a rock into like Matt does. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the books. I mean, I know you can say, well, it took this much channeling, this much power to create that. Yeah, but that's a lot to explain to a viewer that has no idea what these books are. And we had this liquid pool and then it never shows up ever again. And now why was there a liquid pool and why is there... It's too damn confusing. Pardon my French. I just think cut it. You can find the horn somewhere else. You can have maybe something like maybe they find the horn in the Ways. That would be a good place to hide it actually, with Mach and Chin. So, but maybe you can find it somewhere else. I think there's a lot of ways you can go about this without also the Green Man. The Green Man shows up, of course, in the Eye of the World. Shows up again, the Shadow Rising. When Rand takes his step back, and then pretty much the Nim are gone, and they're just this random thing that shows up really for 2 brief seconds and doesn't have any more plot for the rest of the books. And it doesn't really matter. I know people love the Green Men, but doesn't really. Semestia doesn't matter. They all say it. He doesn't matter. Cut him. Get rid of him. It's a lot of money to do that kind of CGI or put someone in a giant tree suit and make and try to people like, oh, you're copying Lord of the Rings with Tree Walk, just Cut it. Yeah. Easy for me to say. So I think you can connect all those different plot holes somewhere else, or all those different things that happen in the Otherworld somewhere else in the story. Now it's going to be a different story, obviously. Yeah, it's going to have to be a different story if you do that kind of stuff. But I think you can still tell a story that stays true to the heart of the Wheel of Time without all these things. I think as people get bogged down on, why do you have to get rid of all this stuff? Well, because it doesn't make sense. That's why. It doesn't make sense. I mean, that's the bottom line. Can I show the final battle sequence where Rand fights the Trollocs in Tarwin's Gap, and then a voice comes down from above and says, climb up this doorway up here into the dream world and skim across there, which you have no idea what end is. Showing that sequence to people that have never read the books and have not read the whole series, it confuses first-time readers anyway. Can you imagine a person viewing this who has never read the books and trying to... I mean, I couldn't imagine myself being like, I'm confused. I don't want to watch anymore. If this is the season finale, I'm done. Like, I don't even know what's going on. This doesn't make any sense at all. So I just think you can cut a lot of it. And I know people are going to hate me for saying that. So some of the other things I think they'll cut. I think they're going to cut Camelin. I know people are going to get upset at me about that. Reason being, it's a giant set. They need to do it right. And honestly, Randfall in the Garden, although it's a cute scene meeting Elaine that way, we can meet Elaine somewhere else. Rand can meet Elaine in Tyr. And I'm fine with that, actually. And that way Elaine meets the girls first in Tar Valon. And that plot line goes there. And that's an important plot line with the Shan-Chan and everything else. So I don't think that connection where that brief moment solidified Rand and Elaine's relationship. Obviously, the viewing with Elida was important. That can happen somewhere else. It doesn't have to happen in Camelin. Anything with Mergaze doesn't really have to happen either. So, couple things you do there. One, major set you don't have to build. All the Trakans you don't have to cast. Obviously, they've cast Master Gil. So, obviously, there's going to be at least maybe inside the end shot. That way you don't have to do a whole city. Maybe just going back and the character talking to him or something like that. So they might be able to do something like that. Basil Gil has been cast. So obviously Camelin is going to come in later, I think. And there's I think season 2 we get Camelin. We get in a lot of the game of houses, and Kyrian I think is going to be season 2 as well. Do I think you're going all the way to Falma? And season, like a lot of people said, no, I don't. But I think it's going to be some parts of. I think we're going to get finished through Faldara in season 1. That way, you can scrap that set. We don't need to keep that going for season 2, because really, after they come back from the Blight and leave, we don't need that anymore. And people might come back to me and say, well, if you're cutting out the Eye of the World, why do you have to go to the Blight? Well, I think you can still go to the Blight. That's a lot easier set to do than the Eye of the World. And then you don't have to add all the rest of the characters. They could just find the stuff in the Blight, just in the field or so. I don't know. I'm not on the show. I'm just thinking on top of my head what I think will be cut. So Camelin, I think the Eye of the World will be cut. And then Barillon, Four Kings, maybe they'll add Four Kings in. I think White Bridge will be cut. Just because I think it's too soon of introducing Tom, whereas you can't, in a few episodes, make Tom's death as heavy as a gravity as you can in a book. It happens too soon in the series for you to build that character up enough for it to really matter. So, and then plus try to build the White Bridge itself, which has no significance at all to the overall plot of the entire overarch story. I think White Bridge gets cut out. I'll say it now. I think it's cut out. I think the whole spray thing, maybe, they have to get separated, I guess, at some point, where, there are Tinkers. So we know that there are Tinkers. So maybe the Perrin and Egwene thing still happens, and there are White Cloaks cast. So that still happens. But, Rand and Tom and Matt going on their merry way. Maybe Bill Doman's in it. Maybe the spray's still in it. But White Bridge, I don't think it's going to be as fanciful. And you have this giant crystal bridge spanning over the water that's going to cost a ton of money in CGI or physically building. They cut it out. Barillon, like I said, Min's going to be in it. Where I don't think Barillon. I think they'll meet her along the ways. Maybe they'll keep Four Kings in there. That's a really strong moment as far as a turning point for Rand. And also in Matt and his downturn to Dagger Matt. So, like I said, I'm looking at this in the lens from a production company standpoint. Have I ever produced a movie? No. I have friends that have. I mean, my friend down the street, he actually is a movie director. He's won awards. He's on IMDb. I'm not going to at him unless he tells me I can. But he's a movie director. Know him well. Hang out at his house all the time, and he tells me a lot of things about production. I've asked him questions about Wheel of Time and just about Hollywood production himself. There's a lot of thought that goes into these things. Going back to the cast, that's one of the biggest things that just gives me heartburn. Just because, guys, you haven't seen them act. You've seen Rosamund Pike act, and if anybody says she's a horrible actress, I guess you're a minority. I don't really care. Sure, everyone has haters. She's fantastic. But the rest of them, you haven't seen. I doubt you guys have gone out there and dug it up and seen them act. You're just being trolls. So that's my 2 cents on it. I might lose, get some hate mail for this, but key takeaways. Yes, they're cutting things. I'm telling you what I think they're cutting. I'm telling you why I think they're cutting it. I think it's good they're cutting stuff. Yeah, I'm going to come out here and say it's good. Cut. It makes for better TV. So hopefully it's going to be a great story. I'm looking for great acting, great writing, adapting the series and making something new and refreshing. I don't want to rewatch the book I've already read. I want something new and exciting and still be at the edge of my seat. Like, I don't actually know what's going to happen next. I know generally what's going to happen next. I know the very end. Hopefully they keep true to that. But as far as the little details in between, I don't want to know, like, oh, this is where Perrin's going to swing the axe because that's what happens in the books. That's boring to me. And I hope you find it boring to you guys too. And let's get behind this and let's, hopefully, if it's good, let's not bash it. Let's give it for what it is and not get caught up in it having to be an exact screen adaptation of the books. Nobody does that. Lord of the Rings didn't even do that. And that's considered one of the greatest adaptations ever made. Harry Potter didn't do that. No, Game of Thrones tried to do that. And they did an okay job in the first season. But after that, it really, really diverged. So I just don't see that being good TV. I'll say it. So I hope that you guys can get over yourselves and just enjoy it for what it is. So until next time, peace.